This month is Caesarean Section Awareness Month. But I don't need to tell you that, you already knew that, same as I already knew that. I didn't know that. But just how aware are we? Time to bust some myths wide open and then stitch them back together, leaving a large but discreetly placed scar. Myth number 1, it's the easy way out. Yeah? Come over here and say that. We've all heard that phrase, too posh to push. Someone who just doesn't want to be bothered with the sweaty messiness of labour and birth, and we'll just go in, we'll pop the baby out, we'll do a little tummy tuck while we're down there, hand the baby off to the nanny. And maybe for some people that's what it's like, but I think for the vast majority of the Caesarean sisterhood, which is a phrase I've just invented, it's not easy. And for a lot of people, like me, it's not the ideal. It's not the plan. At all. And can I remind you, it's major bloody surgery. Easy bloody way out. Myth number 2, recovery is awful. Now when I say major bloody surgery, you have to put it in the context of removing a human from your body. Very rarely does it go 1, 2, 3, achoo, baby! I've had a baby out of the sunroof and one out of the front door, and I would say in terms of recovery there is not much difference between recovery from a caesarean and recovery from a stitched up hoo-ha, technical term. Before having one I had heard you can't drive for 6 weeks, you can't lift anything, you can't hoover. Truth is, you judge your own recovery. If you think you can drive along and you could make an emergency stop without splitting in half, then fine, drive. I did, I drove after about 3 weeks. With lifting, again, you need to be the judge and use a bit of common sense. There are things that you can have to help you. I had a special blanket with handles on the side that you could use to lift the baby, and that really helped. Hoovering, no, medically necessary to not be hoovering. Myth number 3, you cannot have a natural birth after you've had a caesarean. There will be times when that is true, depending on the kind of caesarean you've had and the circumstances around it, depending on how many you've had, but the choice is still yours. Have the conversation and find out. I had an emergency caesarean with my first. I went on to have a natural birth. I'm saying that because it didn't feel natural, let me tell you. What I would say is I had an appointment with my consultant when I was having my second, and she said, oh, you had a caesarean the first time, did you want to have another one this time? And I said, actually no, I want to try and have a natural birth. And she said, well, she didn't really say anything, but she acted as if, well done, as if that was the right decision. Oh good, because so many people just, go on to just have more caesareans, and probably the doctors first time round, probably you could have done it naturally the first time. They can be a bit hasty to do these caesareans. I beg your pardon? If I want to have another caesarean, that is my choice. If I want to try and have a natural birth, that is my choice. If I had a natural birth last time and it was awful and I want a caesarean this time, that's my choice. There is no right or wrong. Nobody should make you feel that there is a right or a wrong. It's what's right for you. Obviously I didn't say any of this to the consultant because I don't like confrontation. Myth number 4, all caesareans are alike. Planned, emergency, all the same. Nope. It is of course a very clinical experience. You are in an operating theatre, your partner is in scrubs, you can't feel anything from the chest down, you're very passive in the experience. It's not people shouting at you to push and to birth this baby, you're just like while it all goes on behind the curtain. But there is a big difference in the two in terms of atmosphere and emotions involved. From what I've heard, planned caesareans can be a rather jolly affair. You can choose your own music, everyone's chatting, it's all calm and controlled and lovely. An emergency caesarean is a little more fraught. I mean, it's got the word emergency in it. Finding out I was going to have an emergency C-section and then having it, I was frightened and I was confused because it just wasn't, I knew what was happening, but why is this happening? And just lost and frightened again. But it was the best thing to do to get my baby out safely, and it worked. Myth number 5. It's not a real birth experience. I felt this. When you picture birth, or when you see it on TV or in films, it always ends. There's screaming and crying and shouting, and then the Simba moment where your baby is here, you have achieved this, and they hand you the baby, and it's all kind of gross but lovely, and you're this powerful warrior woman, mother who has produced this child. That's what I wanted, and that's what I had expected to have. That is not what happened. Instead, I was lying, unable to move, and someone handed me my baby. I could just sort of pet it a bit. Oh, you're very nice, very nice. And then you hand it back. Then they took it off, and then I was wheeled off, and the baby went one way, I went another way. And then I was in a cubicle, eating toast and drinking a cup of tea. No baby. Just thinking, what the heck just happened there? And I think that image was in my head so strongly, partly because I'd put so much time into thinking about it. I had done the NCT antenatal course, I had done the NHS antenatal course, I had done a birthing class, and all of those discussions zoomed in on this end point. And they touched on when things go wrong in the NHS one. And I get why people don't dwell on when birth goes wrong, because who wants to talk that way to a pregnant woman? Jeez Louise, man. But in NCT particularly, we covered everything but. I mean, it was like, and that concludes our discussions on birth. We've covered hypnobirth, water birth, active birth, home birth, pain-free birth, and of course, if you feel you need it, the epidural. Any questions? Yeah, hi, I was wondering if you could talk about caesareans? Celeriac? No, caesarean. A fairy den? Caesarean. A perineal massage? No. So maybe second time round, the reason I said I want to try for a natural birth is I did crave that moment, you know, of push baby birth, whoa, look what's happened. But even though baby number 2 came out of the more traditional exit, it wasn't natural. And again, I ended up in theatre and a spinal block, and again, oh, pat, 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 very nice baby, yes. So, although I have 2 children, I feel like I haven't, in some ways, given birth. But that's nonsense! I have birthed 2 babies, and my birth experience is not lesser just based on the choice of exit. And ultimately, birth schmirth. Birth is not what makes you a mother. You can have no biological connection whatsoever to your child and be the best mother there is. So if you're in a baby group and everyone's telling their little birth stories, and you say you had a caesarean, and somebody gives you a little side look, well, back off, Buster, I would say inwardly to myself, because as I've mentioned, I don't like confrontation. And that is it. Those are the 5 myths and misconceptions that I think I had about caesareans before having one. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please press like, please subscribe to see more, please comment below, and I will see you very soon. Bye!